All right, welcome back to the mix. Good to have you with us on this Wednesday. Remember, Set Furnishings with the compliments of Standard, never beaten on quality. Have to say a big shout out to the entire Standard family. Now we're sitting down with Jackie Watson, and her book is called Business Success: The King's Strategies for Excelling in Today's Marketplace, based on biblical revelations. Good to have you with us, Jackie.
Thank you, teacher. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, now people don't usually tie the two together.
Yes.
If we're honest, usually people get on their knees and start to pray if something is going wrong.
Yes.
But if they feel like things are going all good, then, prayer is out of it. So,
Yes.
so set up the basis on which you decided to go this route to share this information, because a lot of people don't necessarily tie the two together.
Okay. When I first started a radio program called Business Success: The King's Way, and we were on CBC as well, I had some pastors and church leaders calling me saying, church is church, business is business, separate the two. But God had clearly told me that if we're going to be successful in business, if we're going to be successful in any area of our lives, we have to base it on biblical principles. And that's when I started teaching it, and also the start of writing this book as well.
All right, pretty interesting. In the book, you outline everything from idea all the way through to seeking out financing.
Yes.
And to making your business successful. Tell me about these principles on which you have built the book.
Okay. As you said, I start with persons who now have an idea, a business idea. And this book is not just for those who have the idea, but also who are also in business and who are successful. So you can start at any point, but chapter 1 starts with the concept and building the idea, and remembering also that don't despise the days of small beginnings. Just because you're starting small doesn't mean that it's not going to be a big business. And we take you all the way through building the business, setting up the operations. Everything is built on God's principles up to when you're successful, and now you have to build wealth on top of that.
Yes, chapter 5 is about financing, and the title of that chapter really caught my attention. Firstly, because it is financing to beg, borrow. It is to beg, steal, borrow, or other.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
because
that usually is a sore point for people who want to start up a business.
Exactly.
Getting that financial backing.
Yes, they don't know where to go or how to actually achieve financing for their business. Now, once upon a time, persons often ran to a banking or other institution to get loans. Loans are not that easy to get, and really and truly, you don't need to have a loan to start a business. You don't need to start with a lot of money. And secondarily, I share many other options for financing, for getting finance for your business, what I call creative options. And there are a lot of creative options out there. There are a lot of ways that you can get free funding for your business, free funding for parts of your business, as well as partial funding, and then ways that you can finance your business yourself. One of the main things is multiple streams of income yourself. Now, if you have multiple streams of income coming to you, then you're able to finance your business yourself. And
Absolutely.
I share a lot on how you start off small, and then you build that, and then you don't ever forget the dream that you had. Then you use that to build your dream business. So you don't always start with your dream business necessarily, but you build to that.
I like that you also offer an option in there with a worksheet. So you have some practical, you have some practical work that you can do to, refer to what you've learned in the book and learn some new stuff too.
Yes, and there are 2 practical guides. There's the strict business. If you're setting up and you want to have a business plan, I give you a detailed business plan that you fill out, step-by-step guide how to complete this business plan, so that if you do decide, one, to take it to an institution to get a loan or funding or whatever, you can get that. But also you need to have a business plan so that you know the direction that your business is going as well. So we have that. And then there's a spiritual aspect as well for those who want to monitor the spiritual health of their business, because the spiritual health of your business affects your overall success as well.
What is the spiritual health of your business?
Okay, for example, if we're in the studio, the atmosphere, the temperature in the studio affects how comfortable persons are. So we have a spiritual atmosphere as well, and that affects how comfortable and how successful you're going to be in business. So there are some persons who will say, well, there are persons who don't know anything about spirituality and they're still successful. But then we have to examine what is success and what's the level of success that you want to achieve, because we want persons to achieve their maximum capacity.
All right, so you have a lot of backing here
Yes.
in terms of knowledge. You're a multi-business owner, you're a lecturer, business mentor, wealth management director. Tell me a little bit about you.
Yes. I started off, well, I was an entrepreneur from the time I was in primary school. And I do share a little bit about my history in the book. That's one of the things in the book I share, my life story and my business stories, perhaps. So I started there, and then I ended up teaching entrepreneurship and business management. And now I'm a wealth management director where I help individuals and companies to grow and build their investment portfolios.
Without giving away too much, how do you become an entrepreneur at primary school?
I think there are many persons who have done that, and it's just that when you have this desire to go out there and start making your own money, and my parents were very gracious. I actually started a very meager way. I told my parents I want to sell newspapers by the side of the road, and now we see newspapers being sold by the side of the road everywhere, but in those days it was unheard of. And then I lived in a fairly uppity neighborhood at that time as well. So my parents said, go ahead. And I started, and that time I used to get like 2 cents in profit. But I was able to start to learn the principles of saving that, putting that together and buying more and building more. So that's when I first started. But since then I've had, several other businesses.
So that would have been a great start for you, because I don't know if I would allow my daughter to go sell newspapers.
Yes, yes.
Usually we see it in movies, people, young people have a paper route, or they go out and to make some extra money and stuff like that. But that's good. A lot of people are not into encouraging their children
Yes.
to get into that point. There's also a business spiritual action template in the book. Tell us about that.
Yes. Now that action template gives you a step-by-step guide that you can actually go through the guide and check them off as you go through the business to make sure that your business is operating at the maximum spiritual capacity. So there are certain things that we do, things that we put up in our businesses that are affecting the success of our business, because we don't understand sometimes the spiritual aspects of these items and some of the things that we do, and even the principles that we have in our business.
Speaking of because I'm still on the spirituality in the place.
Yes.
When it comes to bringing that in the work environment, we are a multi-faith society.
Yes.
So you may hire somebody of a different religion. How do you kind of navigate that as a business owner or a business director, so that you don't necessarily kind of impinge on somebody else's rights?
Yes.
Or their belief or their faith. Yeah.
Okay, well, I touch on that. That's actually a combination of 2 chapters. That's the spiritual chapter, as well as the hiring process and so forth, because you don't want to discriminate against persons based on their faith and whatnot. But still, you want to make sure that your business is operating within the parameters of, and I'm saying, because I'm saying this from a Christian point of view, within the parameters of the best spiritual atmosphere for your business, and to make sure that anything that is not conducive to maximum potential, that you get rid of it.
Wow, that's some pretty heavy and interesting stuff.
Yes.
But where did you go when, you mentioned when you were doing the radio show that there were a lot of spiritual leaders who called you up and said, the two are separate and distinct, and, they should not cross paths at all. What really was, your response to them?
I don't give a confrontational response. I just said this is what God has downloaded to me. And since then, I believe that a lot of persons have come to understand that we're not Christians on Saturday or Sunday, and then we're business owners for the rest of the week. But we are Christian business owners every day of the week. And even when we're not in the church setting, we still have a spiritual aspect to us that we have to maintain. We still have standards that we have to maintain. Dealing with the spiritual environment, if you're in your business place, and say God or Jesus was to walk in, what would you do? Would you have to suddenly turn off the radio? Would you have to change what's on your screensaver? Would you start pushing things under the desk? Your business should always be operating at such a standard that God could come in at any time and be pleased with what he sees going on.
Wow, that's some pretty interesting stuff. And I can see where there are a lot of people who they might be a little upset or confused about people talking about bringing spirituality into the work environment, simply because there are people who believe in different things. and you don't necessarily want to force your beliefs
Right.
on other people. But, you know, like I said, we usually go to God or, you know, whomever you serve in terms of trouble, but people often forget, you know, on the regular day to give thanks for all of the blessings, or when things are going good, they forget to say thank you.
Yes, and even more than just giving thanks, He's the one that leads us and guides us into making the right decisions, into who to go into business with, what contracts to take, what price you're going to sell. All of these things, God plays a role in. If we would allow Him, we can go on and do it on our own, but yet we need to have God's input to get to the best output.
Yeah, people might not want to hear this, but the church is a business too. So I don't know why why spiritual leaders would say, you know, don't mix the two, because if you're running a church and you have a building fund,
Exactly.
there's some measure of business going on in there.
Yes, yes, that's very true. And I do think that the mindsets are changing, that they're starting to understand that it's not a church and state and church and business, but it's a meshing of the two, and God is at the forefront of both.
But we're certainly seeing that being separated in other parts of the world, a
Yes.
separation between church and state and all the other things. So it's interesting that you're trying to bring us back to that core value here in Barbados. Tell us where we can get the book.
The book is available on all the online stores, Amazon.com, Barnes and Noble, and so on. And the book is soon going to be available in a physical copy in Barbados. Persons can contact me directly. My email, JackieWatsonInternational@gmail.com, and it will be available at Booksource as well, and a few other bookstores also.
I want a little bit of your testimony from, you know, where, as you put it, God downloaded this idea to you.
Yes.
How were you able to move from having it as an idea all the way through to this point where you have this physical book coming here shortly to be able to share?
Okay. Yes, I had the idea. One of the businesses that I own is an institution. It's actually a business school, business and entrepreneurial school. And even though it is a Christian-based school, we have clients who are Muslims, who are atheists, who are different things. And I was able to share with them, and I realized that this doesn't just impact, what I'm teaching doesn't just impact Christians, it impacts everyone. So persons can read this book, and whether they're Christian or not, and still take the principles and apply them to their businesses in order to be successful. And I mentor persons as well. I mentor business persons, and I realized that the mentoring was really helping. They were able to come from maybe semi-successful to more successful, to being very wealthy and so on. And I realized that I'm not reaching everyone within my, that I can go in and actually teach in their or mentor them. So I want to be able to reach a wider audience. And I think that that's why I decided to write the book, to be able to reach a wider audience, to be able to share with them how they can achieve wealth in business and do it based on biblical principles.
It's true, and we hear a lot about, especially our black-owned businesses falling through because they seem to do well, but only for a time.
Yes.
And they're not able to build on what they've done, build on the foundations of what they've done,
Yes.
and create that wealth.
Yes.
So that seems to be the sore point
There
with
just seems to be
business.
a roof, a point that you can get and no further. And this is where these principles come in, where we teach in the book how you can get past this barrier of just well enough. In the Bible, God speaks to Joshua, and he says to him, I'm going to give you good success. So there are some people who are successful, but we want to have good success. It's a higher level of success. So success, yes, you may have some measure of success, but you want to get a higher level of success. Especially as you mentioned, local entrepreneurs and what they call micro entrepreneurs, they're stuck at just being able to get to a certain level.
To meet the operating expenses.
Exactly.
And maybe get a little something extra.
Yes, and we want to take them past that. That's one of the main reasons that I wrote the book, because I really have a heart for entrepreneurs, I have a heart for women entrepreneurs, but also entrepreneurs who are struggling and who didn't necessarily start from anything. Because I have a very interesting, as you said, testimony. I've been through many things. I've had a lot. I fly first class and have all kind of luxuries, but I've also been to the point where I didn't know what I was going to eat the next day, where I had the final thing I had to eat was a tin of corned beef, and it fell on the floor, and you had to take up and cut off the part that fell on the floor because you didn't have anything else to eat. So I understand suffering as well as understanding having as well. So what can I say, sympathize, I empathize both sides of the story, and I share my testimony in the book openly. Some things I've said I've never said to other persons until this time, because it's time to show persons where you've been, what you've been through, and how they too can come out.
But that's the only way to truly diffuse people from kind of being behind your back and you know, mumbling or gossiping or what. You share openly.
Yes.
You know, certainly when you get to a point where you feel like you're ready to share, not before that anybody would push you to that point. But then it's kind of like freeing yourself.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, it doesn't feel like a secret. It doesn't feel like something bad that you can't put out there.
Exactly.
But when you're able to share that, because there are a lot of people out here who are entrepreneurs, but they don't see themselves as such.
Yes.
You know, it's almost like they're going day to day, and just making things happen. Yeah, so I'm happy that you wrote this book, Business Success, The King's Strategies for Excelling in Today's Marketplace, based on biblical revelations. And we're going to get to see a whole lot more of Jackie Watson, but you want to make sure that you look out for that book. It will be here soon, but in the meantime, you can get it online. We'll be back with more on The Mix. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Mix on this Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. You know, I don't know what that means in real terms, because for people who work, I mean, even if it's on Wednesday, you know, every day is not the same, but if you have a lot of work going on or you have a lot of things to juggle, then it really doesn't matter if it's the middle of the week, if you have a lot of stuff to do. And we started by talking about people who might be home, a lot more eyes glued to the television. Maybe you were laid off, maybe you took a package. There were a lot of packages given out. People were laid off. Maybe you've been looking for work actively and haven't been able to find anything. Maybe it's your option to stay home with the children because, you know, that's what you have to do. There are a lot of us out here with children with disabilities, and just to get adequate care and attention for them can be a challenge. So it forces some people to stay at home. Maybe you have an elderly relative who you're trying to look after, and there can be challenges there too in looking after them. So you're looking for something to do at home that you can get some money coming in, you know, based on skill sets that you might have or things you can do. We want to help you get to a place where you can get that off the ground. So author Jackie Watson is back with us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Always so good to see you.
Thank you for having me back. We received some very good feedback after last week's program.
Excellent.
Persons
Feedback
were
like what? I'm interested in hearing.
Well, persons told me they were reinvigorated to restart looking at owning their own business, maybe